Today I'm going to be sewing up the range backpack from Noodlehead Patterns that was included in November's luxury SewHayleyJane box. Hello everyone, I hope you're having a really lovely day. Today is a sewing day and I am going to be making the range backpack that was included in November's luxury SewHayleyJane box. I've got all my bits cut and interfaced. This is only the second time I have sewn a bag pattern, and this is very different to the one I did the first time, so I'm really excited to give this a try. I've got all my pieces ready, and what's really helpful when I was cutting out the pieces is in the pattern she includes an A4 piece of paper with all the different pieces that you needed as squares to cut out and pin onto the pieces. Even after you've interfaced your pieces, still keep these attached to the pieces because there's so many. You can see here all these different pieces and it's going to be really easy to lose track of what's what. So these little squares of paper are so handy. Everything has to be interfaced beforehand, so I have done that as well. I'm using the Dashwood Studio corduroy that was included in the box. I've also got just a plain denim that I bought from First for Fabrics, and for my lining I am using this really gorgeous cotton that was gifted to me for Christmas, just as a really pretty sort of contrast fabric for the inside. I've got my faux leather label from the Specky Seamstress that I'm going to attach somewhere. I haven't decided where yet, whether it's going to be on the pocket or on the sort of fold over bit, but that's ready to go. And then I've got all the hardware, so I need the 2 D-rings that came in the boxes as well. Then as well as that, I've got 2 rectangular rings and 2 of these rectangular slider rings as well. These were just from Hemline. I got from Sew Essential, I bought those from, and a zip. I've also got a contrast thread that I'm going to be using when I sew on the label as well. And I have set up my machine with a denim needle because I'm using denim and corduroy and there's lots of layers to sew through. I've got a slightly heavier duty needle for that. So yesterday I interfaced all my pieces and some of the straps needed a bit of ironing and preparing first. For example, this is the lower closure, which had to be folded. So you fold in the short end, then you fold it in half and then fold the raw edges into the middle. And so now I've just got a bunch of top stitching to do. So that's where I'm starting today, top stitching all these pieces. So we've got the hang loop, the lower closure, the straps, side connectors, strap holders, all of these bits, all of the sort of denim bits. What's great about this pattern is you can use the fabric however you like. So I've chosen to do the main fabric in the Dashwood Studio and then all the straps and the contrasting bottom in the denim. But you could use your main fabric for the straps. You can, take it however you like. So time to get sewing, and to start off with is all the top stitching of these bits that I pressed in yesterday. Let's get cracking. So I haven't gone too far with the top stitching yet because the first step, and I didn't want to get lost and lose all the pieces, was to attach the rectangle ring to the side connectors. This is already quite fiddly, and I think I maybe needed to make the piece just a tiny bit smaller, but it does fit. So it's super easy. It's this tiny piece here that slides through the rectangle ring and then folds in half and bastes in place. Now with this denim, it's quite thick, so takes a bit of muscle, but I'm just going to baste that in place and then move on to the next step. So what I've learned already is it's really handy to have a ruler or a seam gauge and a chalk pencil or some kind of marking pencil nearby, because the next step is to insert the strap holder into the side connector 1/4 of an inch in from the folded edge and 1/2 an inch down. So I've just put a couple of little chalk marks in. These will rub out pretty easily. So that's going to go in there, and then I'm going to top stitch that down. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 layers of denim to try and sew through. So take it really, really slowly. So we have 2 little side connectors. I already feel quite excited that I've sewn something very different to my normal dressmaking sewing. So yeah, excited to carry on with this now. Next stage is to continue with the top stitching. Right, all the top stitched pieces are done and set aside now, and we are moving on to the zipper pocket panel. So this is the panel piece which has been interfaced on the other side, and the first thing you need to do is fold it in half, right sides together, and press. Now because there's interfacing on here, I recommend using a pressing cloth so that you don't get the interfacing burnt onto the iron. Then we're going to open it up, and we need to get some tailor's chalk and a ruler, and we're going to measure and draw a line 2 inches either side of this center crease. So I am going to use the lines on my quilting ruler, match up a line with the center fold, and then draw a line down there, and the same again on the other side, 2 inches either side. Then I'm going to take this over to the iron, and I'm going to fold along those lines that I've just drawn and then top stitch those down. When you top stitch them down, make sure that these flaps are out of the way. You also need to do this with your lining piece, which I have already folded and measured and marked and folded there. So what I mean by making sure those flappy bits are out of the way is when you're top stitching, do one side first, making sure that this bit is out of the way, then fold that back open to do this side. Otherwise you'll end up stitching through 3 layers of fabric when you only need to stitch through 2. So I'm going to take this bit over to the iron, press along those lines that I made, and top stitch using a 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, and then I will be back. Once you've top stitched those 2 pieces, we're going to bring them into the center to meet at the original center fold line. Take that over to the iron and press that down, and then baste across the top and the bottom, and do the same with your lining pieces as well. So it creates a nice little center fold. So that's what I'm going to go do now. Just go and iron those bits flat and then baste in place. Right, that's all nicely basted in place, and now comes time to do the zip. Now, I am going to use this fabric glue pen that I picked up at the Stitch Festival back in March, and I'm just going to use that to sort of hold the zip in place before I sew it. So, put the exterior fabric down right side up, pop some glue along the top edge, and then pop your zip with the zipper pull to the left on top of that, and the glue will just hold it in place. Then we're going to put some more glue on top, like so. And we're going to place the lining piece on top of that, matching up all those raw edges. I'm going to switch to a zip foot on the machine, and I'm going to sew along that top edge as per the instructions with a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. Now, because the zip pull got in the way a little bit, if you need to, you can move the zip pull down to the other end and sew that first bit again, just getting it a bit closer to the zip teeth. Once you've done that, we're going to flip it over so that the wrong side of the lining piece is matching up with the wrong side of the main panel, and take it over to your iron and press it flat so that your raw edges are all matching, and then we're going to top stitch along where we've just sewn, and we've got a little zipper pocket panel. Alright, so I have basted the zipper pocket panel onto the center panel, but I noticed I have made a little bit of an error when I was measuring the panel. This is the panel here, and it should end up being the same size as the center panel, but it is 1 inch smaller, so I must have cut it out at 8 inches instead of 9 inches, or however it was supposed to be. So I've basted it in place, and I'm going to carry on, and I'm just going to use a really tiny seam allowance when I attach the side panels here. And everybody, cross your fingers and hope for the best. So this is all basted on in place. Next, we're going to attach the, what's it called? They've called it the zipper strip. So this is just a strip that has been folded along the long edges 1/2 inch. We're going to pop that along the top of the zip tape, making sure it's about 1/4 of an inch away from the zip teeth. Let's come back a little bit. And then we're going to top stitch that in place. I'm just going to put some pins in to keep it secure. Or you could use the glue that we were using earlier. I'm just going to grab some pins. One there. And one there. And then top stitch that down. Next, we're going to get the lower closure piece, so we can get rid of our piece of paper. We need to find the center point along here, and then the raw edge of the lower closure is going to tuck in there, and then we're going to top stitch all along there. So let me get my ruler. That is 9 inches across. Is that right? So 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. So we're going to put the lower closure bit in between 4 and 5 inches, in between those marks there, and top stitch. Alright, so to complete the center front panel, we're going to get the side front panel pieces, and we're going to match them up along the long side of the center panel that we just made and sew them down so that there's 2, and then they'll open out. Now this is where I need to be really careful that I just catch in the center pocket panel that I made, in the hope that I can keep it the length it's supposed to be. So match those long edges together, pop a couple of pins in, and stitch. The center panel, or the front panel, is now complete, and I'm loving how it's looking. I could definitely have moved the zip over a little bit more this way, so that there's not this gap just here, but otherwise it's looking super cute. I'm really excited. This is really fun. It's nice to be able to sew something without the pressure of it having to fit your body. So if you're having a bit of a sewing slump or a style rut or something like that, I really recommend giving bag making a go, because it's really fun. You're learning some new skills, but it doesn't have to fit your body, so that pressure is taken off. Right, we're going to put this to the side now, and we're going to get our contrast bottom panel, which has been folded right sides together. And then the instructions say that I need to mark a rectangle along the bottom folded edge, which is 1.5 inches tall by 2 inches wide. So I'm just, because it's on the inside and it's on the fusible interfacing, I'm just going to use a pencil. So I need to mark 1.5 inches tall. There. By 2 inches wide. That gets cut out, and we're going to do the same on this side as well. The next thing it says is to make a little mark just on the fold. Mark a line at the fold within the seam allowance on both sides of the contrast bottom. So it's kind of like just a little notch along the fold there. It might be easier if I open it up to do. 1, 2. Once that's done, we're going to sew it onto the front panel, matching the bottom edge of the front panel with one long edge of your contrasting bottom piece. Pin, stitch, press, top stitch, and then do the same with the back panel as well. So we now have this one massive panel going on here. The contrasting bottom piece is all top stitched, and I have basted the 2 side connectors in place. So the next step is to work on all the straps and things that are going to close the bag, and also the actual straps. So with the D-rings, I have slid onto the upper closure, marked a line 3 inches up from the bottom, pinned it in place, and now I'm just going to top stitch up along the lower closure, across the line that we marked earlier, and back down again. And then the what's this bit called? This bit is called the hang loop. And that is going to be basted in place either side of the upper closure, like that. So I'm going to base those in place, and then we're going to do the strap reinforcement. Those pieces are all basted into place now, and the next bit is to create the strap reinforcement strip, which I'm making in the corduroy fabric. First thing to do with this is press the long edges in by 1/2 inch, pop it into place so that it covers these raw edges, and we're going to just top stitch along the bottom edge first before we add the shoulder straps. Right, we are now on to sewing the shoulder straps. So I've done one already to make sure that I knew what I was doing before showing you with the second one. It's quite fiddly and it's quite tight. There's a lot of fabric going through this little slider. So if I was going to make this again, I would probably make these straps just 1/2 inch narrower, just to try and give them a slightly better fit. They're really, really snug. It's fine, it's just if you want to adjust your straps, it's going to take a little bit of elbow grease. So to do this one with your strap, one strap will have a finished end. You're going to put the strap through the center bar of the slider and back out the other side. Give it a bit of a tug. Then you need to measure, where's my seam gauge gone? There it is. 2 inches from the slider, which is a little bit less than that. And then you're going to do a rectangular piece of top stitching for some real extra reinforcement along there. To attach the strap to the side connector, first you want to put the raw edge of the strap into the side connector, pulling it through, and then it's going to go up the slider and down the other side. And this is where it makes it adjustable, but it is really fiddly. So take your time with this bit. This is the worst bit, trying to get it through the final bit of the slider. It's Bit of a squeeze. There we go. It's supposed to be easily adjustable. With these two raw edges of the strap then, they are going to go up and then under, butted up right next to the hanging loop. And then we're going to top stitch it down, making sure that the straps are kept well out of the way. If you've got any funny loose ends, just trim those off first. Okay, we are on the home stretch now. I feel like we're on the home stretch. I have sewn the side seams together just from where we cut those rectangles out earlier, from that edge there to the top. Now to make the shape of the bottom of the bag, we are going to open up this hole that we've made here, matching up the little mark or the notch we made earlier to the side seam. And then we're just going to sew across that bit there on both sides. So try and get it nice and straight, like that. And then, yeah, just sew straight across there. And then we get to turn it all the right way out, and it's like the big reveal before we add the lining. Okay, so now we're going to turn the exterior of the bag right side out. This is when we get to see how it's coming together before we add the lining. So this is the big reveal. Poke out those bottom corners. Oh, it's a lot of fabric, and with all the interfacing as well, it's quite stiff, which is what you want from a backpack essentially. But here we go. It is looking like a bag. There's the back. Whoops. With the straps. Oh, it's looking great. I'm so happy with how this is coming together. Now I'm going to do the lining. You can add a pocket to the inside of your lining, but I am going to miss out the pocket. Just because I'm running against time. I feel like I'm on the Great British Sewing Bee. I need to go get my daughter from school in a minute. So I'm going to set that aside and move on to the lining. So to attach the lining, to make the lining, first we're going to pin the two lining pieces right sides together along the long edges, and then as we did with the exterior, we're going to mark a square in each corner. Now the square in the exterior was 2 inches by 1.5 inches, but in the lining it's a 2-inch square, meaning the base of the lining is just that little bit smaller than the base of the exterior so that it fits nicely inside. So get your measuring gauge or tape measure, whatever you're using, and measure a 2-inch square in each of the bottom corners. Once you've cut your squares out from there, you also need to measure an 8-inch gap between 2 pins along the bottom edge. This is to turn the bag through afterwards. So just pop a couple of pins in there, and then you're just going to sew along the bottom edge, just that tiny bit there, and along the 2 long edges as well. Right, to assemble the lining to the exterior, have your lining so that it's still inside out, and then pop the exterior of the bag inside the lining, matching the right sides together, pin all along the top edge, sew along the top edge, and then we're going to turn it through the gap that we left in the lining earlier. Okay, here we go, the moment of truth. The bag is all sewn. The lining, I have sewn up the gap on the inside. Now I'm going to push it all through, press and top stitch around the top edge. But here we are. I made a bag, you guys. I've made a bag, and it looks, I am so happy with it. Eee! So now I'm going to go and press around the top edge and top stitch it down, and then it is finished. Oh, I just need to add my label from the Specky Seamstress, which was in November's boxes as well. So I'm going to attach that in a minute too. Okay, all finished. I am so happy with this. It looks so beautiful. One thing I would say, I don't know if it's because of my choice of denim or if because I made the straps just a little bit too wide perhaps, but it is a bit of a faff trying to get this one into this D-ring. So if you make this bag, I recommend either just reducing the width of your straps a little bit, or if you have a look on the Instagram hashtag range backpack, some people have used claw clasps instead and made something slightly different, but that is how it should look. Obviously, if you are out and about trying to get that closed up, it might be a bit fiddly, but otherwise I'm so happy with it. And I'm just going to attach my label. Where shall I attach it? There? I think that's probably a good spot, or yeah, I think just there. So I'm going to go do that now, and then it's all finished. And we are completely finished. I am so happy with how this has turned out. I've made a bag and I love it. The corduroy sewed up really beautifully to make the bag. It is quite lightweight for bag material, but with the medium weight interfacing, it just gives it that little bit of extra stability. And I think this is going to be great for when I go out for walks with my little girl Mia, and I can put snacks and water in there. Mia is just behind the camera at the moment. I've just picked her up from school. Mia, say hello. Hello. Mia, do you like Mummy's new bag? Yes, good. So yeah, it's perfect. I'm going to get some photos tomorrow. It's getting a bit dark now, so tomorrow when it's light again, we'll get some photos outside and you can see it in action. Thank you so much for everyone for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Give it a like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you all next week for another video. Bye.
There you go. Thanks, buddy. Good
Thanks
job.
for helping.
Great work on the video. Pretty good cinematographer, this one.
Is she?